The first thing I realized pretty quickly on was that to get to 6 figures in profit and beyond that, you need to outsource. Now, that's not saying that it's 100% necessary. Getting to 6 figures is simply about 2 things: picking the right business vehicle, and secondly, hard work. The boat you choose is far more important than how hard you row. You do need to still row hard though, of course. But working 14-hour days, day after day, just for the sake of hustling and grinding, because that's like the entrepreneurial culture that we live in, will only eventually lead to burnout. So if you're making some money, now might be a good time to start thinking about potentially bringing someone on to help you with the business. It's going to allow your business to maintain the same productivity pretty much overall, while freeing up your time so that you can focus on big picture ideas and new frontiers to expand on. Because we always hear the saying, work on your business, not in it. So hiring someone is a direct solution for that. Then obviously you need to put your newfound time to good use. If you're just hiring somebody so that you can sit around all day watching Netflix, chances are it's gonna end up being the wrong choice. Now, hiring and training people also takes a lot of time and a lot of money, but it's also really worth it. You should be spending a lot of upfront time vetting new potential hires, because a good hire can exponentially increase your business's output because you're both working toward the same goal. A bad hire, on the other hand, can completely tank it, tank the culture, and waste a lot of your time. So the key lesson here is test and interview a lot of people ahead of time before you bring somebody on, okay? Increase your vetting process. Don't just bring on the first person that you interview. Now, the next thing that I learned is being a leader, not a boss. There's a major difference between them. A boss is somebody who basically barks orders at their employees and expects everybody else to do the work. They're rarely liked and they're rarely respected. Now, a leader, on the other hand, is somebody who shows through action and also demonstrates that they're also willing to roll their sleeves up and get to work as well. A crucial tip that I picked up along the way while training my first employee was to build systems and then hire people to implement said systems. So if you simply hire somebody for a job alone, you're kind of at their mercy, right? And you're shit out of luck if they decide to quit. Then you're right back where you started, hiring and training somebody new with a lot of wasted money and a lot of wasted time. Instead, you want to build a system that you can teach them to implement, okay? Because it'll be extremely easy for them to understand and then master it, because it's step by step most of the time. But it also protects you because it's much easier to go out then and hire somebody to implement that same system and just replicate the results. So here's an example of a system that I set up so one of my VAs could take products from my suppliers and put them into my Amazon catalog. Now, you can see just how detailed it is. Not only did they do product research, but they also added those products to Amazon, repriced them, and set up even stock monitoring software, all without any help from me. Now, sure, they were slow at implementing it in the beginning, but they got exponentially better at it as they did more and more. Now it's second nature to them. You also don't just want to hire and look for the cheapest people. Don't build a business around mediocre talent unless you want your business to be mediocre. You want to pay your people more than other people are willing to. They'll be much more willing to work for you consistently. They'll work a lot harder, and you'll be their best option. Because the reality is, if you pay them what everybody else is paying them, they're not going to care more about your business than somebody else's potentially. And ultimately, they could leave you at any point if a better opportunity comes along, which again is going to waste a lot of your time and a lot of your money. Another little caveat too is that you have to be at a point where you can bring somebody on and offer them work consistently. If you can't offer them consistent work, you won't be a priority to them, or they'll constantly, at the very least, be looking for other opportunities to fill that void. So if you're not ready to bring somebody on full-time or close to full-time, don't do it yet. On top of all that, you also want to go after people who are hardworking, that's a no-brainer, but also people who solve their own problems. If you're paying somebody to do a task, the last type of person that you want is somebody that stops at every potential speed bump along the way and asks for your permission or what they should do next. Now, it's totally understandable not wanting to make a mistake, but ultimately, if you hire good people, train them well, and give them the freedom to operate with trust, they'll get the job done correctly most of the time. And if they do make a slight mistake, you can correct it later, teach them, and then obviously they'll get better with every lesson learned. When you're an entrepreneur, you're used to working, you're used to the grind, but one thing that you have to take into account is that once you have about 2+ employees, You'll also need to manage those employees every single day, okay? Because being a manager is a very different skill that you need to learn. So depending on how many people you currently have, plan to have, or if your business can potentially afford it, bringing on a manager might even be something smart that you might want to consider. I can still remember vividly, like the first 2 months that I hired somebody, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and I barely had enough time to focus on and do my own work, because practically all my time, all my focus, and all my energy was directed at managing what they were doing on a daily basis. Training and managing people is certainly a skill that you can learn, but it's probably a very different skill than any skill set that you're used to as a business owner or entrepreneur currently. You also don't need 1,000 virtual assistants. I see other people in groups basically talking about how they have 20 VAs or 30 VAs, like it's some kind of badge of honor, but that just sounds like a complete managerial headache to me. You don't need a lot of VAs. You need a few great ones. Now, ultimately, my business would not be anywhere close to where it is today if I didn't have the faith to bring on other people and to outsource and build a good team. I'd still be spinning my wheels, barely cracking 6 figures. So if you're on the fence about whether or not hiring somebody and bringing them on is a good idea for you, there's 2 main questions that you need to answer. First and foremost, can your business afford to cash flow them full time? And secondly, will you be able to utilize the newfound time if you do hire them? Is there new frontiers, right? Is your business scalable? Is there space to expand? Because building a good team was the sole greatest decision that I made in 2021.